workers have been furloughed in recent days. In a court filing on Friday, the White House said well over 4,000 employees would soon be fired. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
More on these stories at townhall.com.
So my mother is thinking of switching from Verizon to Pure Talk, but she's worried the deal sounds too good to be true. Michael, she said, how can those Pure Talk people offer me the same basic service as Verizon for so much less money? I said, Ma, go ask Google how much Verizon spends on advertising and promotions. A few seconds later, my mother said, oh my goodness, $12 billion a year? That must be a typo. I'll tell you what I told my mom. It's not a typo. Verizon spends $12 billion a year on advertising and promotions, and their customers are paying for it. Well, Pure Talk doesn't spend that kind of money on commercials. Trust me, I would know. That's why they can offer you and my mother unlimited talk, text, and plenty of data on a crazy fast 5G network for just $25 a month. And if you're a business owner, you could really save a fortune. Dial pound 250, say the words Mike Rowe, and you'll get an additional 50% off your first month. That's pound 250 Mike Rowe. Pure Talk, everything you need and nothing you don't.
Some good news for a horse in Great Britain.
One of the 5 British cavalry horses that made headlines when they broke away from their trainers and galloped through the streets of London last year has now been retired to the country without ever returning to active service. Quaker, a 15-year-old horse, suffered a broken bone and serious bleeding during that incident when the horses were spooked by the noise of construction nearby. Quaker retired to the Horse Trust Sanctuary northwest of London. Jason Walker reporting.
OpenAI has announced a collaboration with chipmaker Broadcom to design its own AI computer chips. The company's plan to start deploying customized AI accelerators next year. That marks the latest development for OpenAI maker ChatGPT, and the company's building the chips and data centers required for artificial intelligence. Breaking news at townhall.com. Man's best friend, a woman's best friend, a dog in Florida proving to be an elderly woman's very special helper.
Eeyore the dog is now a hero after leading a Florida sheriff's deputy to a missing 86-year-old woman after her husband reported her missing when she didn't return from her walk. Deputies spotted Eeyore in the road.
Baby, where's your mama?
The dog led Deputy Miller to a nearby spot where the woman had fallen.
He come up to your car.
She was amazed that Eeyore rescued her.
I'm not even his owner. I'm his grandmother. Oh, you're such a good boy.
As the woman waited to be taken to the hospital, the dog did not even leave her side.
Grandma loved you.
I'm Lisa Dwyer.
A booming session on Wall Street today. The Dow right now is up by 504 points. The Nasdaq up by 445. You'll find more on these stories at townhall.com.
News, analysis, opinion.
I can only say that whoever's operating this teleprompter is in big trouble. The UN has such tremendous potential, but it's not even coming close.
There is not a thing that comes to mind. I didn't fully appreciate how much people wanted to know there was a difference.
We have had a revival. Thank you very much.
101.9 and 94.1.
St. Louis is #1
for conservative talk. News Talk STL. This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Stifel, serving investors for over 130 years. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
The left, for months now,
one by one,
have been begging for a civil war.
Every caller gets their say.
We got to stop and not put these officers in situations where they feel like they have to overreact.
And whether you agree,
we have to assume some responsibility because I'm a black man,
or disagree,
I think you're politically wrong.
I do not need athletes to tell me.
You're invited to join the conversation.
Thank you for canceling all your games. Now I get it.
101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL. From the Michael's Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Skies are cloudy. Temperatures are still above normal, but slightly cooler, 78 degrees. Could see a sprinkle or two off to the west and north of the St. Louis area, but very little rain expected. Should be a dry work week. Highs tomorrow in the low 80s, and again, dry with lots of sunshine in the afternoon. but looks like a rain chance by Saturday and then cooler temperatures next week. I'm First Alert meteorologist Kent Earhart.
It's a pretty simple concept.
It is clear to me.
Let me make this clear.
Big events.
Your news and your opinions.
We're going to get out there and be heard.
St. Louis's place to talk.
Our voices are never heard in the media. We, the people, will always find a way.
And it's about time that we start putting up or shutting up.
Yeah, and you should come. You should listen to many voices.
1019 and 94.1.
Their phone lines have surely been burning up.
News Talk STL. This hour of Colombo Company brought to you by Gutter Pros. Water goes where we tell it. Call 314-656-7195 or visit them at gutterpros.com.
I am an atheist.
I really am a liberal.
But I'm also a conservative.
No matter your side.
I'm a Democrat. I'm just a bit angry, frustrated conservative.
No matter your inclination.
I'm probably a liberal, maybe more in the middle.
We are here for your place to talk about it.
I'm the progressive liberal Democrat that you said is afraid to call you.
St. Louis is number one for conservative talk.
And I'm sure we'll have a robust conversation.
News Talk STL.
The time to rise has been engaged. We're better best to rearrange. I'm talking here to me alone. I listen to the finest work song. The finest hour.
Hello and welcome to Monday afternoon, the start of a new week here on Colombo and Company on 1019 and 94.1 News Talk STL. I am Tony Colombo in studio with producer Ashlyn, and we have got all of the latest news to help you catch up on anything that you missed over the weekend and get your week started here. We've got, of course, the latest surrounding the peace deal and the hostage release and return that is happening in Gaza and Israel. We've got the latest on the government shutdown, and there's a lot of discussion and things attached to that. We have got the latest out of New York, which kind of blends into some of the international news because just yesterday, Zoran Mandani in New York was raising money for an organization that employed a UN adjacent organization that employed terrorists that participated on October 7th. That organization has since been reprimanded by the United States, by Israel, by the UN itself. And yet that is how the front runner of the New York mayoral election spent his day yesterday raising money for that organization. I'll give you all those details as we go through the afternoon. Also, some disturbing news released surrounding Prince Andrew and his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, the story that won't go away. We'll get you updated on that. We are going to talk to our AI expert, Mike McCleary from Intervine. He will join us at 3 o'clock, just after 3 o'clock. So we're a little less than an hour from now. Always look forward to that conversation. Also, every Monday, we talk to Paul Kurtman from PR Kurtman Investments to get a check on the economy and the markets as we start the new week. So Paul will be with us in about a half an hour, around 2:40 this afternoon. And in a little less than 10 minutes, we will be joined by Virginia Kruta from the Daily Wire to get her thoughts on all of these stories and more. In fact, she has an article up right now at the Daily Wire that I'm going to ask her about. The headline of her article also reminds me of it's about one thing, but it reminds me of another
current story that has been a little bit controversial. So I'm going to talk to her about that, learn more about that story and the tie-in that I perceived when reading that headline. So looking forward to that. I wanted to start, however, the day with some sound and a story that I was just listening to a little bit about an hour or so ago before the show, and it's kind of stuck with me. Kind of one of those things that just, you start wanting to debate the computer screen. Like you can reason with the soundbite you're listening to. So it's kind of been stuck in my craw for the last little bit. So I want to start with this. This happened yesterday on ABC. JD Vance, the vice president, was on with George Stephanopoulos, and George had one thing on his mind. When he's talking to the vice president of the United States, as hostages are being released, as a peace deal and a ceasefire is being agreed to in the Middle East, as the United States government is shut down, and some of the things that we talked about at the beginning of this shutdown that, weren't a worry, like some of the jobs that were still happening and active in the government, a lot of that is changing now, and more people are starting to become affected by the government shutdown. So, with all that happening, would George Stephanopoulos, in his opportunity to talk to the vice president, want to touch on any of those things? No. He wanted to talk about Tom Homan and the report. And if this ends up being the truth, then we need some answers and some accountability. But right now, it's just a report with no proof about Tom Homan during the 2024 election reportedly accepting bribes from companies that could help with border security, and saying, hey, if you help me out, I'll make sure that you get one of those gigs whenever President Trump is elected. Which, again, that happened. It's bad news, and it needs to be addressed. But that's the only thing in the news that George Stephanopoulos has appeared to have any interest in. So I thought this was a very interesting back and forth, and I have some thoughts and some reaction to this, but I want to play it for you first. So again, this is yesterday, Vice President JD Vance on ABC on the show This Week with George Stephanopoulos. Here it is.
Not sure what the precise question is. Did he accept $50,000? Honestly, George, I don't know the answer to that question. What I do know is that he didn't violate a crime.
So you don't, what was caught on the tape, you're saying right now you don't know whether or not he kept that money?
I don't know what tape you're referring to, George. I saw media reports that Tom Homan accepted a bribe. There's no evidence of that. And here's, George, why fewer and fewer people watch your program and why you're losing credibility. Because you're talking for now 5 minutes with the Vice President of the United States about this story regarding Tom Homan, a story that I've read about, but I don't even know the video that you're talking about. Meanwhile, low-income women can't get food because the Democrats and Chuck Schumer have shut down the government. Right now, we're trying to figure out how to pay our troops because Chuck Schumer has shut down the government. You are focused on a bogus story. You're insinuating criminal wrongdoing against a guy who has done nothing wrong instead of focusing on the fact that our country is struggling because our government's shut down. Let's talk about the real issues, George. I think the American people would benefit much more from that than from you going down some weird left-wing rabbit hole where the facts clearly show that Tom Homan didn't engage in any criminal wrongdoing.
It's not a weird left-wing rabbit hole. I didn't insinuate anything. I asked you whether Tom Homan accepted $50,000, as was heard on an audio tape recorded by the FBI in September 2024, and you did not answer the question. Thank you for your time this morning.
And that was it. And that was it. That was his interview with the vice president. And let's even say this. Let's give him all the benefit of the doubt. Let's say that that is a tape, and let's say you want to ask about it and you get the president or the vice president's answer, and it's bad, you call him out on it, you move on, whatever it may be. the thing that stands out from me on this, and again, that's not even the case because this tape's been reported on. It's not been released to my knowledge, and it may exist. It may not. If it does, like I said, if Tom Homan's guilty of accepting bribes, if he broke a law, he needs to be held to account. No cover, no defense will come from me for anything like that. But apply the flip test to this. Can you imagine George Stephanopoulos or any other member of the mainstream media conducting an interview with Kamala Harris while she was vice president like that? It's just the absolute hypocrisy and two sets of rules, two sets of behaviors. Like, where was that tenacity on anything that the Biden administration did? Where was that tenacity to follow up and dig in and get an answer? And I'm going to gotcha and all this. Where was half of that, a third of that during the Biden administration or during the election with Kamala Harris or any other time in the last 10 years when it comes to interviewing Democrats on a national platform like that? It's just, I know this is nothing new, and I know people are saying, duh, Tony, it's been this way for a long time. But every now and then, I don't know, just one really like sticks in my craw because like I'm watching this and I'm thinking, you would never see them behave this way. And look, I don't mind. Unlike Katie Porter in California, I don't mind follow-up questions. I think that they're necessary and important. But on a story that doesn't even have all the facts out yet, with so many other things happening, and you so clearly just want to like score a gotcha point on the vice president, and it's not going your way, it's not working out for you as you're trying to get that done, to dig in and then end the interview. Vice President of the United States during a peace deal in the Middle East and a government shutdown, and you end the interview without even touching on those issues because you couldn't get him to play your gotcha game. It's just incredible to me, that behavior. And I hope the vice president's right when he says this is why your ratings are going down. I don't know what the situation. I don't watch any of those news shows and haven't for a very long time. So I don't know how relevant they are with everybody, if that's still something that people tune into, or if the ratings are indeed in the toilet like he alluded to there. But just, again, the flip test, the hypocrisy, the two-sidedness was, if you want to, just a microcosm, a perfect example of all of that. I think you just saw it right there. Wouldn't you have loved to see anybody press Joe Biden or Kamala Harris like that on literally anything? But it never happened. It'll happen, for any reason whatsoever on the other side. But geez. All right. Had to get that off my chest. We are going to be joined by Virginia Kruta from the Daily Wire, and we are going to get into those big issues of the day. The latest on the ceasefire and the return of hostages. Also, the latest surrounding the government shutdown. We'll talk about those things and more with Virginia Kruta from the Daily Wire next.
Made in St. Louis for St. Louis. It's News Talk STL. News, analysis,
I'm glad you're talking about this.
Opinion.
I'm glad you're fired up about it too, because I know I am.
News Talk STL.
Weber Chevrolet and the entire Weber Automotive Group, the place to go if you are looking for a new vehicle. Weber Chevrolet, as you know, has been in business in the St. Louis area for nearly 125 years. We were just talking last week with Mark Close during Close's Cabinet, which is sponsored by Weber Chevrolet, but Skip Weber was unable to join us. And we're talking about, all of the work within the community that Weber Chevrolet has done over the years, how much support they have shown the local music community. They were just one of the big sponsors of the Bluff City Outdoors Alton Catfish Classic tournament last week. I mean, just so many, not only have they been in business in the community for nearly 125 years, they've been extremely active in the community. And then on top of all that, they continue to deliver for their customers at a level higher than anyone else. And the reputation scores and the customer service ratings show that month after month, year after year. Weber Chevrolet is number one when it comes to customer service with a bullet. It's not even close. So if you're looking for a new or used vehicle, check out what's happening at all three Weber Chevrolet dealerships. You got Creve Coeur in Missouri, Granite City, and Columbia in Illinois. All you have to do is go to WeberChevrolet.com.
Listen up. The offer St. Louis can't stop talking about being held over by popular demand. Right now, Renewal by Anderson. Buy any window or door, get the next one 50% off. Plus, you might get 0 interest, no payments for 18 months. This is Renewal by Anderson, the full-service window and door replacement division of Anderson. That's a name you've trusted more than 122 years. Our exclusive FiberX frames, 200% stronger than vinyl. And remember, Anderson products increase your home's value by at least 15%. So make sure you take advantage of the offer while it's still being held over. Schedule your complimentary consultation at rbastl.com. 877-WINDOWS. 877-WINDOWS. Renewal by Anderson. This is award-winning quality, stronger windows, smarter investment.
Hi, it's Ken Williams, and my favorite Capriati sandwich is the Capastrami. You've got hot pastrami, melty Swiss cheese, crunchy coleslaw, and zesty Russian dressing. What else do you need? I love Capriati's, and you will too.
On Manchester at McKnight in Rock Hill. On the next
Larry Connors USA.
Monday starts a new week, but some of the same old, same old. Leftists still attacking ICE agents.
Larry Connors USA. Now, weeknights 6 until 8 on News Talk STL. This hour of Colombo Company brought to you by Gutter Pros. Water goes where we tell it. Call 314-656-7195 or visit them at gutterpros.com.
Welcome back to Colombo and Company on 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL. I'm Tony Colombo, and we are now joined on the line by our friend Virginia Kruta from the Daily Wire. And Virginia, as always, appreciate your time on a very busy Monday afternoon. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am good. I want to talk about the government shutdown with you, but let's start with the latest out of the Middle East. So, of course, Donald Trump and several world leaders signed the peace plan. And this happened after all 20 living Israeli hostages returned home from Gaza. There are still some transferring of the remains of the hostages that passed away, which is just I mean, it's wonderful that they're coming home, but just, I mean, I can't even imagine what that process is like for the families that are waiting for their loved ones to return. But, you know, all in all, a massive historic step towards peace. I'm always one of those people that are sort of waiting for the other shoe to fall. But so far, a lot of credit and a lot of great things happening as this ceasefire unfolds. How do you feel about where we are in this process at this moment?
Well, I think Marco Rubio was right. He said something at the Egypt meeting today that this is probably the biggest deal with regard to world peace in the last 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, you know, Trump was Trump and he said only 50. and the thing is, he might not be wrong about that. So Like, keep in mind, we are more than 50 years post the end of World War II,
Yeah.
which is the last time I can think of something. Now, I realize that the Israel-Gaza conflict it doesn't encompass quite as much of the world, obviously, as World War II did, right? And so the idea that it's similar but not, but this is also a region of the world that, as Trump noted, they've been at war for 3,000 years.
Yeah.
Like the rest of the Middle East has been trying to excise the Jewish people for 3,000 years.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, I think comparing it to the end of World War II is a very fair and appropriate comparison, that it's on that level, especially if it has long-term sustainability, which obviously remains to be seen. Nobody knows. But how do you feel right now about the long-term sustainability of this peace deal? Will it be different than ones in the past?
I think that involving other nations in the area, especially nations that are already kind of tied to the U.S. or owe the U.S. because of the Abraham Accords, that's really the key there, I think. But as far as, I mean, it's very difficult to thread this needle because Israel has to always remember that they are surrounded by people who want them dead. And I'm not talking about governments, because the Saudi government can say, we believe that Israel has a right to exist. And the UAE, their government can say Israel has the right to exist. That is not going to change the fact that you are dealing with generational hatred toward Jews that has been taught to their children from a very early age. I mean, you go into Gaza and you can pull aside 5-year-olds and you ask them, what do you want to do when you grow up? And they say, well, I'm going to kill Jews.
Yeah. There are.
This is not.
Go ahead.
It's not. The governments can acknowledge them all they want, but until the people follow suit, you're going to have rogue actors, and you're going to have a region that is ripe for. I mean, nature abhors a vacuum, right? If Hamas is gone, who's going to fill that? And you know that Iran will give them money, and the thing is, they do too.
Yeah. You make such a
Hamas
great point.
might disappear, but that's we got rid of ISIS, and then that's how we got ISIS-K, and you get rid of one, and they create another, because the end goal is not peace. The end goal is the obliteration of Israel.
Right. And you make such a great point about there's kids shows, and like if in that part of the world there are our Saturday morning cartoons, like the kids shows, television shows that are made for toddlers, that where the bad guy, the monsters in those shows are Jewish people. That's how that's
I mean, we're canceling Netflix over trans characters. So like this is, but they have, and this is very real. Like they have, we're not being taught to, like, on the one hand, yes, it's insidious, and we should be wary of what our children are watching. But we can generally assume that they're not being trained to kill the people who object to the trans characters.
Right. I don't think people, by and large, understand how deep that teaching runs, like how instilled in the culture that is. And that's the fear, and it always will be when it comes to sustaining peace and changing that mindset. It takes generations. It's not something that can be done overnight, but I mean, obviously still a historic day for peace. We'll continue to keep an eye on everything happening with that, and keep you up to speed as we go through the afternoon and the week. Of course, I wanted to, while we have some time here with Virginia Cruder from the Daily Wire, I want to get your thoughts on where we are with the government shutdown as we enter another week. It doesn't appear that either side is any closer to caving in. And in fact, it looks like both sides are, very much more interested in continuing to make their case to the American people about why they're right and that shutdown's the other side's fault. I think that, the Republicans have a much better argument than the Democrats do, but that doesn't mean that they're winning the debate in the minds of the public overall. How do you feel about where we are with the shutdown as we start a new week?
Well, I think that Joe Kernan on CNBC was right when he said it. He was speaking directly to Hakeem Jeffries, who had the decency to at least look uncomfortable while this was going on. And he's talking about the fact that, okay, so Republicans won an election. They passed legislation you don't like in the big, beautiful bill, right? And then they offer you a clean CR, which is what everybody always wants, right? A clean CR. We're not going to change anything. We're going to keep the spending at the exact level that it already was, just temporarily, so that we can hammer out details. What everybody always asks for. And Democrats, instead of accepting that, say, no, actually, we are going to refuse to sign that until you undo the stuff in that legislation that you passed duly, the way you're supposed to. You passed that legislation and we don't like it, so we are going to hold the American people hostage until you undo what you did by that legislation, and then we'll sign off on this spending thing.
Yeah. And people should know this is not their one and only chance to have done that. Like, it's not like, if they sign this CR, then they can never, tackle these issues again. It's a really like confusing situation of why now? Why with this? A CR that, by the way, expires, I think, on November 21st. So it wasn't even like this was a long-term CR.
No, it was a month. It was less than a month, or a little over a month, actually. I think it was 6 weeks.
So, go ahead.
So the other thing that I've been very entertained by watching the Trump administration cut the legs out from under the Democrats at every turn. Because so first they go out and they say, oh my God, look at all the women and children who are on WIC aren't going to get any money. So look at what Republicans are doing to you, right? Well, then the Trump administration says, we found a workaround. We're going to make sure they have money. We're going to make sure that program has money. So they said, oh, look, he's not going to pay the military. Look, guys, the military's not going to get paid. What about those people in the military who need health care and other stuff, and the military's not going to get paid? And I tell you what, you can go back and listen. We had this conversation on Randy Tobler's show on Saturday. He was asking me about this. And I said, watch, the Trump administration either has already identified or is going to identify a way around this, and they're going to get the military paid, shut down or not. And it was hours later that Trump announced, oh, by the way, we're going to pay the military, so it's cool. We found the money in a different fund, and PHX is going to take care of this. So we got it. So I'm kind of waiting to see what they hang their hats on next, because it's just going to be fun watching Trump undo it.
Do you think the Republicans are winning when it comes to the hearts of the American people on this? Because usually, with a little help from the mainstream media and some of their own, lies, the Democrats can usually push a message.
Think about this, though. CNBC was challenging Hakeem Jeffries directly. Margaret Brennan on CBS Face the Nation yesterday pulled tape of Chris Murphy, the Connecticut senator, saying that shutdowns should never be hostage situations, and they should pass clean CR so that we can get back to the business of debating policy. This was him from 2013 or 2018, one of the other shutdowns. Anyway, Chris Murphy making that statement, and then she has him on and says, isn't that exactly what you're doing now?
Yeah.
They're getting challenged by legacy media for this, because media knows they're on the wrong side of it.
Yeah. And the Democrats don't know what to do. I talked about this last week with a different issue. Democrats don't know what to do when they don't have the mainstream media on their side. They're so used to getting cover from the mainstream media that
Well,
when they
look at
don't have it,
look
they
at what's happening to Abigail Spanberger in Virginia right now.
yeah.
Like the coverage now, because for a little bit, media was ignoring the Jay Jones text. But then I don't know if you saw the clips from the debate between Winsome Sears and Abigail Spanberger.
I didn't see the clips, but I saw some of the headlines and how she
Oh
wouldn't
my
even,
gosh, you can pull this up. They are directly asking her questions. She's refusing to make eye contact. She's refusing to acknowledge the speaker when the question's being asked. And then they asked her, okay, the debate moderator asked her, so, where do you fall on, are you going to continue to endorse Jay Jones? And did you know about these texts before they went public?
Yeah.
So Spanberger spends the next 45 seconds complaining about how it was politically motivated that the texts were released when they were. Doesn't say, and now she does say that she didn't know about it until they were released, but obviously it was politically motivated. Won't say that she won't endorse the guy. Instead says, well, we're all running our own individual races and it's going to be up to the voters to decide.
Wow.
Yes, but do you endorse him? Yes or no? You have 15 seconds. Well, it's going to be up to the voters to decide, blah, blah, blah. And then Sears asked her a question directly and she wouldn't look at her, wouldn't acknowledge that she was talking, and just stood there staring off into space, not answering. And it's like, it's the most uncomfortable dead space in a debate since Joe Biden in June of 2024. Like,
and I know you have an article up.
Thing is,
yeah, go ahead.
Well, and the thing is about with Spanberger, that she has the mental acute, like she's fine. There's nothing wrong with her. Right. She's doing it because she has no answer.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. She's caught. Virginia has an article up about this exact thing at the Daily Wire, dailywire.com. Check it out. And one more quick thing I wanted to ask you about. You have another article up. CNN reporter claims Israeli hostages were likely treated better than Gazan civilians. That statement reminds me of the story about the comedians that went to Saudi Arabia and all the bad look that has come from that and their spin and their own defenses. And Dave Chappelle of all people, saying that it's easier to speak freely in Saudi Arabia than it is in the United States after he signed a contract that listed out all the things that he couldn't talk about in Saudi Arabia. He literally signed a contract saying these are all the things you can't talk about, and then goes on television or goes on to reporters and says it was easier to speak freely in Saudi Arabia than in the United States. Clearly not. But this whole spin about like how it's, there's more rights over from these these oppressive regimes in the Middle East than there are over here are just absurd. And that's exactly what another one of your articles talks about. Could you just quickly explain that story?
So Christiana Amanpour, you got to remember she is Iranian and English by her ancestry, and I don't know if she feels a connection to Iran or not, but she's certainly taking their side in a very real way when it comes to this kind of coverage. But she's making the case, and she's doing it badly. And I will say this. She's making the case that the Israeli hostages were considered leverage, and so they were probably kept alive intentionally. Whereas the Gazan civilians, Hamas militants don't really care if they live or die, because if they live, okay, maybe we can raise them to be little terrorists. And if they die, well, then we can add their numbers to the inflated Gazan health ministry and say, look, the Israelis killed them too. So like, they don't really care about the civilians as far as leadership and so that's the point she's trying to make, I think.
It's terrible.
Because the hostages as quote leverage have some value that the civilians do not.
Yeah, but they're still hostages. They're not, you know why they're not treated better? Because their freedom has been taken from them. They are being held captive.
Let's not forget the number of female hostages who were killed outright, so they couldn't go home and say, yes, they raped me all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, and
So-
it just really stood out to me after covering that story about the comedians in Saudi Arabia, how there are just people in this world, in the media, celebrities, politicians that will say these crazy things about rights and freedoms and things like that being better when it's clearly not, because they're trying to either defend or support some,
No,
some
unless Dave
crazy
Chappelle
idea.
was talking about because the left will cancel you for everything you say.
No, that's not
Like,
what he was talking. Unfortunately, that's not what he was talking about. I wish it was, because I love Dave Chappelle, but him and Bill Burr and so many of these other big comedians, I mean, they sold their souls for a bunch of money to go perform in Saudi Arabia, which it's actually okay with me, but don't come back here and then talk about how things are so much better in Saudi Arabia than they are in the United States just because the prince just gave you a bag. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And that headline reminded me of that exact issue. Check out that article and more from Virginia at thedailywire.com. Virginia Kruta, as always, my friend, appreciate your time, and we'll talk to you again very soon. Thanks so much.
Sure.
All right, we are going to continue the conversation with Paul Kurtman from PR Kurtman Investments. We're going to get an update on the markets and the economy as we start the new week, and we'll talk to Paul next.
Watch us on our live stream using Rumble, Facebook, and Twitter. Whether at home or at work, you're mobile. So when you're mobile, stay mobile. Keep St. Louis's home for conservative talk with you wherever you go. Download the News Talk STL app in the App Store or at newstalkstl.com.
Hey, Jamie Allman here for O'Fallon Family Floors, O'FallonFamilyFloors.com. Brian and his team, they're just amazing people. They're so proud of their operation. Pride in every installation. You can see that in the Google reviews. Pride in the great quality, pride in the great pricing, pride in the great variety, and pride in the fact that you can go into the store right off of Highway K at O'Fallon, or the store will come to you. That's the promise of O'Fallon Family Floors, O'FallonFamilyFloors.com.
Hey, St. Louis golfers. Looking for a new golfing experience? Sugar Creek Golf Course was voted the most popular golf course in St. Louis. Book your tee time today at sugarcreekgolfcourse.com and join the fastest growing golf community in town, sugarcreekgolfcourse.com.
Paul Kurtman's financial update is brought to you by PR Kurtman Investments, providing customized strategic guidance to help you build and protect your wealth. Learn more at prkurtman.com.
Welcome back to Colombo and Company on 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL. Thanks again to Virginia Kruta from the Daily Wire for joining us in that last segment. Now on the line with us is Paul Kurtman from PR Kurtman Investments. He's with us every Monday to get an economic look at the beginning of the week for us. Check on the economy, check on the markets. And Paul, as always, appreciate your time on another crazy busy Monday afternoon. I don't even know where to start. Does all of these big things happening in the news with a peace deal in the Middle East and the government shutdown starting another week, are we starting to see that either one of those things or anything else impact the markets as we start the week? Because it feels like in recent weeks, every time we talk, it's like, yeah, all this is happening, but the markets are just kind of shielded from it and doing their own thing. Does that continue?
Yeah. It's, mixed things happening in the world right now. Government shutdown continues. Peace deal being negotiated. So we have things that you would think would be good for the market and other things happening that you think would be bad for the market. But the market has really seemed to respond mostly, yet again, to the tariff talk from the White House. So Friday, Trump comes back down heavy with China on these tariffs, and the S&P 500 was down right about 2.5% on Friday. But then over the weekend, he puts up a social media post and has a few things to say, and that calms the market down a little bit. And so today, the S&P 500 is back up 100 or 1.5%. So I think when you look at the way the market is moving right now, it is yet again moving based on headlines that have a lot more to do with global trade than any type of global conflict, and certainly more than the government shutdown right now. However, if the government shutdown continues, because that will become there will be a ripple effect from that hits a little bit closer to home, closer to the markets the longer this goes on. But as of yet, I don't think that that's having a major impact in the markets as much as the tariff talk is having.
I'm glad you brought that up, because with all of these other major stories, the tariff issue has kind of slid, to the back burner and has not gotten as much attention. And it's something that we haven't talked about yet. Can you give us some of the details, some of the specifics of, because, that was it seemingly impactful kind of big news heading into the weekend, Trump's tariff announcement about China. But then you just mentioned that sort of was diffused over the weekend. Can you kind of give us the details on what he said at the end of the week, and then what happened over the weekend that changed things?
Well, I can tell you, this would probably be a good thing for the listeners to hear, and that is that when Trump starts talking about tariffs, there's a couple things that you can expect to happen. You can expect the markets to begin to recoil, like we just saw on Friday. And this is as he's bringing the axe down. As he's bringing the axe down, 100% tariffs on this, that, and the other from China or whoever else. But then as soon as he begins to kind of like catch himself, before that blade actually comes down and, cuts off somebody's head, people are paying attention to that. And people they just feel a lot of relief. Now, when you look at what happened on Friday, primarily what happened was the whole technology sector really kind of led that whole sell-off. And it was big. Like I didn't have any of my clients calling me, because most of the people that I work for are well prepared for these types of things. We talk about it at length, making sure that they have a good strategy for their portfolio to weather these types of things. But when Trump starts talking about tariffs, not just in the general tariff sense, we're gonna bring around tariffs, but when he actually starts bringing that axe down very pointedly on a country like China, and especially if it has anything to do with tech or anything else, well, then you can expect the markets to pull back sharply. We haven't seen a drop of 2.5% since the beginning of the year, when Trump first began talking about tariffs and actually first started levying them on these other countries. So we know that the seriousness of this tariff talk, you can gauge this by the market. You can gauge by the market how serious of an issue that the tariffs are actually going to be, based on how far the market is falling. And Friday really seemed to be one of those days that the market said, whoa, hold on, tariffs are back in the news, especially where it comes with China, and the markets responded to that. But here's what I think is going to happen, though, over the next few days, in the next several weeks. I don't believe, for all he says about wanting tariffs, I don't believe President Trump wants an actual legit trade war. I do believe a lot of this is posturing until he gets one of these countries to bend the economic knee at the table of American supremacy when it comes to being the world leader in terms of trade. And I think that what we're seeing right now is just second verse of what we saw, to a much lesser extent, though, back in the spring of earlier this year.
Is it a simple question, but a confusing topic? Is it working for Trump? Is this strategy, is it working? Because I am getting to the point, that's why I'm glad that we're talking about it, and why we do talk about it so much, because there's so many headlines when it comes to the word tariff, that it's hard to keep up with everything, because Trump will announce a tariff and then he'll pause it, extend it, make an agreement that makes it go away. And so it's just like, okay, what country are we talking about? What tariff? What's the length? Like, it's just, there's so much, and things change so quickly that it's hard to keep up with all of it. which,
Mhm.
you know what? I mean, it's good I want all that information and I want to be informed as much as the next person. But the most important thing is it working for the
Yeah,
president?
well, that's the $1 million question in more ways than one, and maybe to even better answer your question before, because I'm not sure I really answered it very clearly. But
Mm.
this specific conversation with China has a lot to do with the rare earth minerals,
Mm.
and this is so important because it leads into technology. Because we need a lot of these minerals for AI powered microchips. That is a vital resource, especially for our own defense industry. So I do believe that in many cases this is working. Now we saw China earlier this year say, well, we'll just start rerouting a lot of our goods through these other countries. And then, Trump got wise to that and quickly put the kibosh on that. So that's not happening. So China's going to find themselves in a situation where they're one of their biggest trade partners, the US, they need us for trade. So I do believe that they're going to wind up um, making sure that they kind of bend to our economic pressure. We have seen Trump do this with a lot of other countries. One of the best pictures of 2025 was when Donald Trump had these other dozen world leaders sitting in his office while he was holding court. And that's kind of a good image for what Trump is getting with a lot of these economic discussions that he's having where tariffs are concerned. People are coming to the table and people are giving us better trade deals than we have had with them previously. China's a much stronger holdout, but I do believe we're going to get there with China too.
I'm glad you touched on AI. You mentioned that just a moment ago, and we're in about 10 minutes. We're going to talk to our AI expert, Mike McCleary from Intervine. He joins us every Monday and at 3:00, and so it's perfect lead into that. We've talked with him a lot about the investment, the amount of money that is being invested into AI facilities and the power plants and that need to be built around the country. And of course, that's a lot of jobs for folks. There's also the fear of AI taking away jobs. How much this is, not a 60-second answer question. So I understand that it's not fair, but how much do you feel the AI industry is going to factor into the economic health of the United States moving forward? Is there anything bigger than the influence of AI coming in, the next several years to the economy of not just the United States, but across the world?
It's really hard to say what new inventions we're gonna be introduced to 5 years from now that we can't even fathom. Up until 2021, artificial intelligence, the way that we have known it, has only existed in Hollywood. And so, whether or not we're going to have anything else come our way that's bigger and better than AI, right now it's kind of unimaginable. Like, well, what could it be? Because right now, I believe we are scratching the surface of what AI is going to be doing for the world, and for consumers, and for moms and dads, and for students, and in the healthcare industry. I think that we are scratching the surface. I think we're at the very beginning of what amounts to a brand new industrial revolution where AI is concerned. So I don't know if anything is going to come along that's going to be bigger, but I do believe that AI is going to is going to play a much bigger, more substantial role in our daily lives and in those industries that we all rely on for health and prosperity.
And Paul, one last question. Got about a minute and a half here. As we do start this new week, and the government shutdown seems to be, something that neither side is giving in on. Doesn't seem to be going anywhere. As it continues, it looks like it's going to have more of an impact on jobs and some services that it hasn't impacted yet. Do you foresee that becoming a bigger issue for the economy and having more impact on the markets as time goes on, or do you feel like that's going to continue to be two separate issues?
That's it is a difficult question to answer. I would say a little bit of both. Now, listen, when we get economic numbers and we talk about GDP or we talk about jobs numbers, a lot of times federal employees factor into a lot of these jobs numbers and everything else. So whenever we do finally get some economic numbers out, it might kind of paint a much poorer picture than the reality of the strength of the American economy, because people that are being let go in federal service are going to feed into poorer economic numbers. But I think that all of this will likely resolve itself really quick, not just the government shutdown, but just how things settle out in terms of the economic numbers after the government is able to reopen. I do anticipate a little bit of kind of some grayness, some blurry lines as we try to make sense of some things, but we're not looking at anything like a 2008 recession because the government shut down. But we do need the government to get back open, and it would be helpful if people who have already voted for this in the past would just go ahead and vote for it this time.
No kidding. Great stuff from Paul Kurtman, PR Kurtman Investments. To learn more at prkurtman.com. And Paul, of course, is with us every Monday afternoon here on Colombo and Company. Paul, as always, really appreciate your time, my friend. We'll talk to you soon. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, Tony.
And like I said, we are going to talk about some AI news, and there's some big AI news happening. A big announcement by ChatGPT and AI videos dominating social media and more. Next.
Public schools, like public libraries, should be free and open to all. Open enrollment allows parents to choose the school that's the best fit for their children. Maybe another school has a wider curriculum, is bigger or smaller. Maybe a kid is being bullied and would be more comfortable at another school. 75% of parents favor open enrollment. Open enrollment programs now exist in 43 states, and Missouri should join them. Our next-door neighbor, Kansas, has one of the strongest open enrollment policies in the nation. Kansas parents are trusted with choices and options, while Missouri parents must move out of their home to change public schools. And it's a trend. Nationwide, the percentage of students going to their chosen public school has steadily increased. Assigning kids to schools based on their zip code is the old way. Open enrollment is a better way. Learn more at showmeinstitute.org. The Show Me Minute has been brought to you by Show Me Institute and Show Me Opportunity.
Life's legal challenges deserve experienced representation. For over 15 years, Colo Combs Attorney at Law has been serving St. Charles and surrounding counties with comprehensive legal expertise. From tax preparation and estate planning to family law and criminal defense, Cole delivers personalized solutions for your unique situation. You have traffic tickets, need a business formation, real estate matters, one call will handle it all. Cole O. Combs Attorney at Law. Call 636-949-0010 extension 3 today or visit colecombs-law.com.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness One. Wellness One is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common sense science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on Newstalk STL. And you can visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
KLGY HD3 Clay, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
Hold.com. I'm Bob Agnew in Washington. President Trump and other world leaders have signed the Gaza peace deal at a summit in Egypt. The president told the global summit it's a monumental moment for the Middle East and the world. Earlier today, cheering as Red Cross vehicles carried Israeli hostages away, leaving Khan Yunis and the Gaza Strip headed toward Israel. Charles de la Desma has more on today's historic hostage release.
Hamas has released all remaining living hostages held in Gaza as part of a ceasefire, pausing 2 years of war that pummeled the Gaza Strip, killed tens of thousands of Palestinians, and had left scores of captives in militant hands. The 20 will be reunited with their families and undergo medical checks. Over 1,900 Palestinian prisoners held by Israel are also to be released as part of the deal. The bodies of the remaining 28 dead hostages are also to be handed over as part of the deal, although the exact timing remains unclear. I'm Charles de la Desma.
In a speech to the Knesset today, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu had praise for President Trump's plan.
A proposal that brings all our hostages home.
The White House, meanwhile, warning of more firings during the ongoing government shutdown.
Vice President J.D. Vance is warning of deeper cuts to the federal workforce the longer the government shutdown goes on. As the shutdown entered its 12th day, Vance warned the new cuts would be painful, even as he said the Trump administration is working to ensure that the military would be paid and some services would be preserved for low-income Americans, including food assistance. Hundreds of thousands of workers have been furloughed in recent days. In a court filing on Friday, the White House said well over 4,000 employees would soon be fired. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
More from townhall.com.
Dinesh D'Souza went into a war zone to make his new film, revealing never-before-seen footage of October 7th. The film offers a new way to understand Israel, radical Islam, anti-Semitism, and biblical prophecy.
Could the fate of the world be tied to this place?
The Dragon's Prophecy, based on Jonathan Cahn's international bestseller. Watch it now or buy the DVD at salemnow.com. That's salemnow.com.
Progressive has great customer service, and it's easy to reach us because great and easy is the way to be. Like salads, great for you, and so easy you can put any group of veggies in a bowl and it's a salad. A full carrot with a head of cabbage, weird, but still a salad. One radish and a couple of green beans, also a salad. 14 blueberries, half an onion, and a sunchoke. Odd, yes, but an odd salad. So contact Progressive's customer service by phone, app, or online. It's great and easy, just like salad. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. A warm pattern the next couple of days. Low of 60 degrees and a high of 82 in the afternoon. Normal will be closer to 70, but we're going to be up into the low 80s. Partly cloudy skies, a warm day, and that warmth continues for Wednesday. Partly cloudy and a high of 81. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by Chris Cooper and Serenity Wealth Management. Discover little-known strategies that could be the difference between choosing the care you deserve or having someone else decide it for you. Get a free copy of Chris's book at serenityltc.com.
Fox News Commentary with Jimmy Fallon next.
I'm alpine skier Michaela Schifrin. I've won the most World Cup ski races in history. But what does success mean to me? Success means discipline. It's teamwork. It's the drive and passion inside of us. And it's why Stifel is one of the fastest growing global wealth management firms in the country. If you're looking for success, surround yourself with the people who will get you there. If you're an advisor or investor, choose Stifel, where success meets success.
Stifel Nicholas and Company Incorporated. Member SIPC and NYSE.
Past performance is no indication of future results. Investing involves risk. Consult a financial advisor before making any investment decisions.
Fox News Commentary with Jimmy Fallon next.
If you find yourself feeling out of place in the world, it's comforting to know conservative values haven't been abandoned everywhere.
The far left wants to destroy conservative values in America.
This is News Talk STL. Welcome home.
You know, well, I'm a chicken fried and cold beer on a Friday night, a pair of jeans that fit just right, and the radio.
Welcome back to Colombo Company on 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL. Busy 2 o'clock hour. If you missed any of it, we talked to Virginia Kruta from the Daily Wire, Paul Kurtman from PR Kurtman Investments. The latest surrounding the ceasefire and the peace deal in the Middle East, the government shutdown, and more. We discussed it all. If you missed any of it, make sure you are subscribed to our podcast because we put this show, Colombo and Company, out as a podcast right after we get off the air every day, and we put it on basically every podcast platform. So wherever you get podcasts on that platform, make sure you are subscribed to Colombo and Company, and it's the best way to make sure you never miss anything. All the great guests, all the great conversations, including the one that we have every Monday afternoon at 3:05, which it happens to be Monday afternoon at 3:05. Mike McCleary from Intervine, our AI big tech expert, is on the line with us. Mike, happy Monday, and thanks for your time.
Speaking of great guests, sorry.
You know it, baby. That is exactly right. And not only is it a busy day in the political news cycle with the shutdown and what's happening in the Middle East and, you know, so many other things, it's a very busy day for AI news. We have this announcement coming out of California. Gavin Newsom has signed a bill today, the first one of its kind, I believe, in the country that regulates AI companion chatbots. So that's super interesting. And then there is, and I've barely had time to look at this story because it was just broke a little bit earlier this afternoon, but a big partnership announced by ChatGPT, by OpenAI, that is having a big impact on that company and getting into the news. And I want to talk about Sora also, and I know you do too. It's funny that before the show, Mike and I were talking about some topics of the day, and you brought up Sora, and I had a Sora experience over the weekend that I wanted to talk to you about anyway.
Ooh.
So yeah, so many things. Let's start with the OpenAI situation, and this is breaking news, and so I'm sure there's more information that we'll get in the coming days, but this agreement between Broadcom and OpenAI seems to be making a lot of headlines today, and we're talking again about a lot of money being spent within the artificial intelligence industry. Do you have any of the details on this story yet?
Yeah. And so it's kind of crazy how OpenAI just week after week is announcing these multi-billion-dollar deals with different companies all across the industry. We're talking hardware, software. We'll probably see robotics coming soon. Just they heard it here first on the show.
Oh yeah.
I heard you and Paul talking about like what's the next big thing. We should talk about it at some point in time, because my guess is after AI, it's going to be robotics. But now it doesn't have to do with the Broadcom thing. This Broadcom is just another way for them to get more compute. And so it's funny, they're talking now, the method of currency is gigawatts. I don't know if you noticed that in any of these stories out there, like,
power.
Oh, we need to have power it is. They're talking about they're going to be getting 10 gigawatts of compute out of them and infrastructure, which is kind of like crazy now. This is the new currency. It's replace Bitcoin, replace NFTs. It's gigawatts. And they're going to be using their infrastructure and their chips. So they're similar to NVIDIA, but they do something a little differently as well. So NVIDIA makes the chips that power most of the world's AI. Broadcom makes a lot of the chips that connect all of our computer systems. That's kind of their strength, is like really having the fastest network connections. Because if you think about it, it doesn't matter how fast the computer is running ChatGPT. If you can't get that information to all the millions of people using it, Broadcom brings that to scale. And they're working with OpenAI to make sure that they can help really speed up all of our connectivity around the entire world.
And I feel like our conversations, especially over the last couple of weeks, this has been a major focus in that, that these companies and building these power plants to provide more power, like that's the focus. The first one to get there, the first people that have access to that power are going to be the ones leading the way. They are going to be the ones in the driver's seat. And it just seems to be all about this, these partnerships that bring people closer to having the power that they need. That seems to be like the most prominent thing in the AI industry right now, the race in the AI industry right now. Is that a fair assessment?
Power and infrastructure.
Yeah.
You're right, because you can make things smarter all you want, but there's limitations to that. But we can override those smart limitations by just throwing more compute, more power, anything. That is the fastest way to make everything out compete all of our competitors. Just throw more power at it. It's an easy way. Now, and it's also a long-term play, right? Because we talked about this last week, where if we don't start doing this stuff right now, there's such a long timeline for getting these plants and power systems in place. If we don't do it right now, even if we don't need it all right now, we will be in no situation to meet the demands here in 2, 3, 5 years down the road.
And I actually used part of our one of our recent conversations, like real world impacts of this kind of thing, because we were talking last week or the week before about, we can already make videos that look almost indistinguishable from real life. We'll talk about that in a minute with Sora. We already have AI chatbots built into our phones that we can have full-blown conversations with. It's like we've already got all of this stuff happening. Why do we need, so much more power to get these things done? And I have noticed after you explained it, the Gemini AI that I talk to on my phone from time to time, especially, doing show prep or things like that. You had talked about how one of the real world limitations of this is that they're installed with a certain amount of info at the fingertips of the AI, for lack of a better term. And because it's all about getting you a quick answer, it's all about, trying to communicate as quickly as possible with you so you have the best experience possible. But sometimes, that initial batch of info that it has is outdated or incomplete, and you have to force it to use some power and delve into the internet and not just go by what it's built in. I hope I'm doing a decent job of explaining this. I'm not sure that I am, but
No,
what
you are.
What I'm getting, the point is I have seen now, armed with that knowledge, I know to ask certain types of questions, like for the latest information, or the brand new, the brand new information that was just released about, because I wanted to access the entire internet and go to that level without having to fight through. And I've noticed, getting an answer that's outdated at first and just re-ask the question to make it do its thing. It's been, since we had that conversation, it's been very noticeable. And if it's very noticeable to me, then for you and the people running these systems, it's glaring. And this is the kind of thing that can be eliminated with more power and more infrastructure applied.
And think about that. Not only just more power, we talked about that, but Broadcom brings in the faster network connections. So now every time it does need to go out there, if it can go out there and access everything at 10% of the time it does right now, you've just 10x'd the capabilities of the AI because you have a better networking infrastructure. All these things are playing in to everything we've been talking about, getting people better, faster, more trustworthy answers so that we can beat out our competition with it. And it's a big play. I mean, I don't think I've ever heard of any industry investing trillions of dollars without really having a lot right now. Like, we can see great videos, great music, great images, but there hasn't been a lot right now where you see businesses that are dramatically benefiting from it. We just, like, the people are trying to make that happen, but you don't see it yet. So we don't have a ton of true proof of concept, but we're still investing trillions in this industry right now. That's how much people think this is at stake for us.
We're talking to Mike McCleary from Intervine, and want to switch to this piece of legislation, this bill that was signed today in California by Governor Gavin Newsom, making it the first state in the nation to require AI chatbot operators to implement safety protocols for AI companions. This is a tricky situation and a slippery slope, because as anti-regulation and especially anti-government interference I am on just about every issue I've talked about in these conversations, that there does need to be some rules applied to AI to keep some guidelines, to ensure a safe path forward. So, so I admit to that, but I'm definitely leery. I'm definitely leery about Gavin Newsom being the first one.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, you and I, like, we don't really like overregulation. Right. We don't like this. And the last thing I want to do is say, wow, I really agree with Gavin on something, but this is one of those where I can see where he's coming from.
Okay.
Because they address the exact same concerns that we have. We don't want our kids talking to a chatbot thinking it's a real person who's going to maybe give them advice on how to commit suicide and encourage them to do that. I mean,
exact issue is one of the things that it was the motivation behind this. Yeah, the death of a teenager who died by suicide after a long conversation with ChatGPT. So that's Mike is referencing an actual incident that was part of this.
Yeah, it's Adam Rain,
yeah.
16-year-old kid, and it's really happened, and it not only did it validate the thoughts he was having, it gave him advice. And it was kind of scary. That's how, at the time, how scary these tools were. And which is why we have to do something like this. Is this the right answer? I'm not really quite sure. So far, what they had proposed in here, it's kind of, this is not like an immediate, there's no ban. This is kind of like a slow guardrail building where they want people to report on what's happening. They want there to be some guardrails in place so they can say, how many times did your systems indicate there may be a minor talking about something suicidal or self-harm? So they can start seeing how often this is happening, and then to make sure that they are, notifying the right parties, which they haven't really talked about because that's another slippery slope there.
Yeah.
But this is more of like, I guess, like a guardrail of trying to like pave the way for how can we start doing this responsibly. I think that if Trump wanted to really throw off Gavin Newsom, he should give him a compliment. How would that work? And I say, hey, I think Gavin Newsom finally, after like the past 17 years, did something smart today.
Yeah. How much does a state bill or a state law have when it comes to impact on AI? Because if they're not working out of that state, they don't have infrastructure in that state or whatever it may be. I mean, is this something that actually has any impact on ChatGPT or Meta or any of these other companies?
Well, if you're California, where a lot of our big tech companies,
that's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
It does. But that's why a lot are moving like to Texas. You're seeing a big exodus there.
Yeah.
However, if you're overseas, they have no control at all overseas as to what during there. What they do have control over, and this is kind of like the final kill switch that states have, they have control over the infrastructure, like the internet service providers in their state, and they can really start pushing down and pushing responsibility off onto them. Think about like the Spectrums, the Google Fi, and saying, hey, you know what? You need to shut off these other services that don't comply by our laws. And they haven't talked anything about that, but that's like the final thing that they can do in order to try to limit companies that they don't really preside over inside of California.
And one of the scary things about AI development and evolution is that, because when you read a story like this, I'm sure one of my immediate reactions is, how was this in place to begin with? How was it okay? How was it possible to begin with that a AI chatbot would engage in a conversation, that went on for a long period of time and got very deep about, issues like self-harm or, many, many other very sensitive topics. And correct me if I'm wrong, but the answer is sometimes even the companies don't know how far are the responses, or what the software is capable of until they see it happen. So if from my standpoint, with everything else on earth, every other creations, you look at it and say, how come those regulations weren't put in to begin with? It's not really the same comparison when it comes to AI. Is that accurate?
Yeah, AI is completely different. It's not software that's programmed on logic with a bunch of like if, ands, ors, those statements like we all learned back in high school or college. AI is trained on knowledge. And, at the heart of it, it just takes all this knowledge in, digests it, and then tries to predict the next letter, the next word, the next sentence for whatever questions it's asked. That's like the heart of how it works. And it's kind of like, I don't know, maybe it's like painting by emotion, or it's trying to just guess what the next thing is should come out of its mouth. And over time, it gets better and better and better, incredibly smart. But there's no way to know what it's going to do. Even today, Tony, you and I go and ask the exact same question at the exact same time.
That's exactly what I was about to ask.
A different answer.
That's exactly what I was about to ask. If I could take the transcripts of one of these conversations, from one of these incidents that are referenced in the bill, and I were to go to the same to the same software, the ChatGPT, and start with the same question, like verbatim, and continue down that line, it won't be the same conversation, right? That I would have.
Yeah, it's almost impossible to
Wow,
have the exact same
that's
conversation.
wild, you know.
It's awesome and scary all at the same time.
Yeah. But most people are used to, you know, it's still, you know, like in my brain, you know, it's still like my brain tells me it's still a computer. It's still a computer program. So it's programmed to answer this way if this question is asked, but it's not that simple when it comes to.
No. If you ever hear something called like pre-training and post-training, that's, you'll hear this all the time in AI. Pre-training is when these new chatbots just absorb tons and tons of data. That's the pre-training. The post-training then is as it starts giving answers back, people review the answers and then adjust things on how it answers so it seems more logical and makes sense. That's the programming part of it. There's this post-training that's where they put these guardrails in place in order to make sure that doesn't just give you nonsensical answers. And they're adjusting what are called weights. It's like these incredibly complex formulas that you just tweak one little part of it, and it can adjust the entire path that these AI brains go down in finding answers. And somehow by doing it billions, if not trillions of times, it's crazy, it turns into almost a sentient human and can have a conversation about anything.
Oh yeah.
But we got to talk about
Sora.
Stephen Hawking wrestling in the WWE.
I've seen that exact video, the Stephen Hawking one, and so many more. It is the Sora videos are freaking everywhere all of a sudden. And we came across one over the weekend. This was my story that I told you I wanted to talk about. I won't say who fell for one of these videos because my wife would kill me if people knew she fell for it. She handed me a video. I can't even remember. It was ridiculous. And she was like, "Is this real? This can't be real. Is this real?" And you know, it was AI, and it said Sora at the top of the screen. But it does show you just how prevalent, and not everybody knows what Sora is. You know, they don't know if that's maybe just like a social media platform. This video came from that platform, or it's a, you know, website and or a news organization. You know, not everybody knows, I think, what Sora is yet. So having that on the video doesn't automatically explain it, you know, or, you know, let you know that it's AI. But these things are everywhere, and it's like, and they are using, as you mentioned, Stephen Hawking, a lot of these videos are using famous celebrities, some dead, some alive. You know, like I saw Mike Tyson, like negotiating a peace deal with Hitler or something, like in one of these videos. Like it's wild, and it's everywhere. And you know, obviously this could be a problem.
Yeah, it could be a little bit of a
this
problem.
could create some issues moving forward. Why the sudden dominance of Sora? Why is this happening all of a sudden?
So Sora's unique capability when it came out was it is by far the best platform at giving it one tiny command and creating the most realistic people and videos doing anything you want. Google's VO3 is really good. Sora, this new version, Sora 2, it can just make people look like they're doing things completely realistically, and it gets people's images correct. That's where these other AI platforms have they always mess up, sometimes intentionally, probably usually intentionally, so they don't recreate people exactly where they were. Sora does that. It has been trained on all these videos of people, or what we think that, you know, Lincoln looks like, Lincoln looks like, and it can create the most realistic video. That's why it got so popular. They've addressed it by saying two things. One, they always leave the Sora watermark on.
Yes.
Little tip here. Do a Google search on how to remove that watermark, and there's like a dozen videos out there to do that. But secondly, also they allow you, if your video is being used, you can opt out of it. Like you can contact them, and like, if I'm a famous star, I don't want it to be used, you can do that. Problem is, if you are deceased, you don't have that ability.
Yeah.
Like there's not really an easy mechanism. Not that I know, unless you do a seance, that could work. You know, but
or I guess if your
estate
estate makes that claim.
Yeah,
I
and,
would
and
hope
that's
that-
how they're going to be getting around this.
Yeah.
But I mean, what do you do with all the videos that have already been created? They're already out there in the wild. You'll never get rid of them.
Right.
And I do think about this. Like, what if someone created a video of my dad, my grandpa, saying something obscene that he never really did say?
Mhm.
That would upset me. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Now and that's how I think about this as a human being. But also, if I want to do like a historical recreation of maybe the Gettysburg Address with Lincoln, and maybe he's wearing, I don't know, he's wearing like a tutu or something, I should be able to do that, by golly. It's my right.
Right. Or maybe it's the Gettysburg Address, but it's like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man from Ghostbusters delivering it instead of Abraham Lincoln. I mean, that's the kind of, that's the kind of randomness that we're dealing with here. So just to be clear, because these videos are, so prevalent right now, it's not all coming from the same place. This is because Sora is so popular and so easy to use that everybody's making, not every, but there's thousands and thousands of people out there making these videos. It's not all coming from one source or one group or one company, and it's just they're taking over. It's just because the popularity of that service has grown so much. That's why you're seeing this. Is that correct?
Right. And it is able to recreate images of people so well. Like, I can upload a picture of my dog, and I don't know if you've seen these, and I can make my dog driving a car being chased by a police officer with a body cam.
Yeah.
It just does it so realistically that other video systems haven't been able to do that. And that's why it got to be so popular. I got to admit, they're hilarious. Like, these videos, like, I don't know.
A lot of them are. A lot of them are.
I watched
yes.
a 20-minute YouTube compilation of these, and I laughed all night long. My wife finally forced me to turn the TV.
Yeah. The ones that I first, like when I was first introduced to these Sora videos, were like the Bigfoot vlogs of Bigfoot and all these ridiculous scenarios. And, it's obviously gone on, and grown a whole bunch since then. I will say, though, that when you see enough of them, there's definitely like a Sora voice or a Sora accent or like cadence of when the characters talk that starts to become noticeable when you see these videos. So if you see one that doesn't have the watermark, there are some small telltale hints of like, where this came from, but by and large, like you said, they are very realistic videos.
And they're turning into a social media platform. I don't know if you know this, we talked about this, but I never thought it would really go over. But they talk about how we want this to be a place where people can create funny videos of themselves and their friends and kind of turn it into like a new Instagram or Facebook. I thought that was the stupidest idea. However, after seeing, I have some friends that are doing this. Every day I turn on my computer, it goes to the Sora page, and I see all these clips that my friends are making of each other doing completely ludicrous things. And I got to tell you, it's hilarious.
Yeah.
It really is funny.
Yeah. But, the two sides of every coin, while that is fun and creative and harmless, if it's teenage bullies, making a video of the person that they're bullying doing something that they didn't do and trying to spread that lie, there's some, there's some major concerns on that side of the issue as well. But it seems like this is just exploded, and obviously it's not going anywhere, and it's only going to get back. Like I said, there's some things that there's some clues to, when it's an AI video, but they're getting harder and harder to detect. So definitely something.
And that clue, by the way, Tony, is that the cadence is because Sora still has this 10-second limitation, and it tries to get everything in 10 seconds. And so you'll notice the most common clue is they're talking faster than a normal person would because they got to get a whole like 30 seconds of dialogue in. That's a dead giveaway right there.
That was actually going to be my next question, was going to be how long can the videos be? So they can only make the videos in 10-second chunks? Is that
10 seconds right now, up to 15 seconds if you are on one of their like $200 a month plans. However, like that's only going to get longer. They're going to keep increasing them. Google is rumored to be coming out with one that's like either 30 seconds or a minute any day now, because like we always see, they got to keep up with the Joneses. They got to release something that's going to outdo Sora. But the way I look at this, Tony, it's a great thing. All these new video platforms give people like you and I plausible deniability.
It's true. It's very true. And there's it gives us a lot to talk about as well, which
That's
is
my positive spin for the day.
Always important. For sure. Mike McCleary from Intervine and intervine.com. Before we let you go, remind folks about your great company that makes the best flashlights, lanterns, and headlamps on the market. And of course, not only the great products, but also that awesome promo code to save some money when shopping.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're heading into, winter coming up here. If you need any kind of camping lighting or power outage lighting, we got the brightest lanterns, flashlights, headlamps you'll find anywhere. Great prices. And to get even greater prices, go to intervine.com, intervine.com, and use discount code Tony, TONY, and save 25% off everything, even if it's already on sale. Yes, you heard that right.
Yes.
Even if it's already on sale.
Even if it's already marked down, you can mark it down even more. And
sometimes we may be paying you.
There you
I
go.
have no idea how it works.
Right. And flashlights, lanterns, headlamps, and even batteries in all different sizes available at intervine.com. Again, just use my name, Tony, as your promo code for 25% off everything. Mike, thanks as always for your time, my friend. We will talk to you again very soon. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, guys. This is too much fun. Talk soon.
Totally agree. And there's never a shortage of topics to discuss with Mike. All right. Before we get out of here and hand things off to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show, there was some details released, more details surrounding Prince Andrew's past correspondence with Jeffrey Epstein. These things continue to surface, and this story continues to linger, and I am going to give you the latest on that and more before we get out of here. That's next on Colombo and Company.
Follow Tony Colombo on Twitter at Tony Colombo Talk. New choice for conservative talk, live and local.
I need to know what's going on in my city.
News Talk STL.
If you are thinking about selling your home, there is one team to call that can provide you with all of the information you need to have that peace of mind, answer all the questions on whether or not this indeed is the time to move forward. And if it is, they are also the team that can deliver for you better than anyone else. And of course, I'm talking about the Wallner home selling team at Berkshire Hathaway. Rodney and Jen Wallner have been for years St. Louis's number one home selling team because they have the work ethic, the experience to be the best. And I can tell you that from personal experience working with Rodney and Jen Wallner. Can I just we talk about the stats all the time. They're selling 15 times more homes per year than your typical home seller. So many qualified buyers that they guarantee to get you an offer. Sometimes just everything in life just comes down to genuine people, just good people. And that's what Rodney and Jen Wallner are. They are easy to talk to. They're very easy to get a hold of. They answer all of your questions. They just all of the things you're looking for when you're working with someone on something as important as selling your home. And then possibly, for us, it was not only selling our house, but it was also finding a new home for our family. And the Wallners just absolutely the best and the easiest people to talk to. And, the most helpful that I have ever experienced when selling or buying a home in my life. So I cannot recommend them enough. If you are thinking about selling your home, you need to call the Wallners now. Call them at 314-810-SOLD, 314-810-SOLD, 314-810-SOLD for the Wallner home selling team.
Storm damage got you stressed out? Don't worry. Call Mario and his team at Top Quality Exteriors. We're your local St. Louis neighbors. Mario and his team specialize in roofing, siding, and gutters. Whether you need a few shingles replaced or a complete exterior makeover, we bring quality work with real results at an affordable price. Plus, we'll work with your insurance company to get your claim approved and help you get your repairs done quickly. Call for a free estimate today, 314-618-8888. BBB accredited and ready to roll. 314-618-8888.
This is Larry Connor's commentary on News Talk STL.
If you're going to be a leader, you want to do a great job, so followers will praise you. Thank you. I wonder if Chuck Schumer is getting appreciation, trying to protect his job to become the darling of the leftist loonies, but jeopardizing the jobs of other Democrats. The rubber has hit the road. Friday, the Office of Management and Budget said reductions in workforce underway. Translated, we are beginning to fire federal workers, and those that do return might not get back pay, as they usually do after a government shutdown ends. The left, led by Schumer, immediately blaming Trump and Republicans, calling Trump the Grim Reaper. Well, it is true the Trump administration is carrying out the firings, but they had warned you. And everyone had a job until Chuck led them off the cliff, again, primarily to keep his job. He sacrificed members of his own party, trying to keep the hardcore left. Chuck, have you ever walked through a pasture of cattle? You know there are things you need to avoid. Watch where you step. You stepped right in it, and the smell will stay with you.
Get more Larry Connors on Larry Connors USA.
Tonight at 6 on News Talk STL.
You want the best place to watch baseball or any sport and be able to enjoy premium cigars and whiskeys? Lit Cigar Lounge. Lit has so many events each month. You need to constantly check the Lit Cigar Lounge Facebook. You don't want to miss anything. Plus, you can order food from Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta, delivered within minutes right to your table. By the way, we're in the season for great patio dining. Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta has your table waiting.
Yes, it's been really hot and humid, but fall and winter right around the corner. Tim Jones here to tell you, time to get a hold of Chad Hansen and the gang at Hansen's Tree Service for your home or your business. Grinding, land clearing, green waste recycling, tree consulting, removal, or pruning. The organic mulch from Hansen's a wonderful addition to beautify and spruce up all your landscape beds. They offer substantial volume discounts for bulk orders and emergency tree removal. Just go to hansenstree.com. That's hansenstree.com.
On the next
Larry Connors USA.
Monday starts a new week, but some of the same old. Leftists still attacking ICE agents.
Larry Connors USA. Now weeknights 6 until 8 on News Talk STL.
Welcome back to Colombo Company on 101.9 News Talk STL. Great informative conversation with Mike McCleary from Intervine about the AI issues of the day. Again, if you missed that or missed anything on the show from today, just make sure you subscribe to our podcast. It's the best way to make sure that you never miss anything here on Colombo and Company. We put the show out as a podcast right after we get off the air every day on all the podcast platforms. Headline out today, more details surrounding Prince Andrew's past correspondence with Jeffrey Epstein continue to surface after a picture of the disgraced royal with his arm around a teenage Virginia Giuffre was first published in 2011. Prince Andrew allegedly told the convicted sex offender, quote, "We are in this together," via an email obtained by The Guardian and released in a recent report. The email was sent to Epstein on February 28th of 2011. Think about how long ago that is and how long this has been going on. And it read, quote, "I'm just as concerned for you. Don't worry about me. It would seem we are in this together and we'll have to rise above it. Otherwise, keep in close touch and we'll play some more soon." Makes me want to vomit. And also, it's important to mention that this email was sent 3 months after Prince Andrew told the BBC he had cut all communication with Epstein. So obviously that was a lie as well. I bet he's on the list. The list that doesn't apparently exist. I don't know. Sounds like he might be on the list. I'd sure like to know. But anyway, that story, the Epstein story, still in the headlines, not going anywhere, and something that I will bring up and talk about whenever it is important. All right, that is going to do it for Colombo and Company today. We will be back tomorrow at 2. In the meantime, keep it here for the O'Reilly Report next, followed by the Tim Jones and Chris Arp Show. Thank you so much for listening to us and supporting us here at News Talk STL.
Now, the Free Market Minute, brought to you by the Hammond Institute for Free Enterprise at Lindenwood University.
Hey, it's Mike Ferguson from The Morning Show, and I'm here with Dr. Grant Black. And Grant, does having more economic freedom make a difference in people's lives, such as maybe helping reduce poverty?
It definitely makes a difference. Economic freedom is critical for fostering